The honourable member for Calgary-Crowfoot.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to have the opportunity to debate this motion. And I'll just say from the outset, I certainly support it. I support the motion, and I support the amendment that we're debating now. I have some history with these matters. I chaired the Ethics Committee and spent time off and on that committee over the last 3 parliaments. And you know, it's a core function of committee to review legislation. Earlier in debate, the member from Winnipeg North talked about he made this weird comment about suggesting that there's a matter of hypocrisy among Conservatives that supported the Accountability Act in the 41st Parliament, now concerned about its shortcomings. Well, it's a core function of Parliament and of committees to review laws. And this law was up for review no matter what the circumstances. So, you know, I'm going to point that out from the outset that there is nothing inconsistent about Conservatives wanting to review a law that is up for review and to bring current, the lens of current problems that have been identified throughout the years to its study. So I certainly support the motion. I support the work that the committee is undertaking now. And as my friend from Calgary Heritage talked about in his speech, there were many cases of the Conflict of Interest Act being breached by this government in the 42nd Parliament, the 43rd Parliament, all the way through. They breached the Act. We had the Prime Minister's vacation, acceptance of the vacation that has been spoken of. And S&C Lavalin in that episode is a particularly troubling one in that we actually had the interference in the prosecution of a corrupt business being influenced by the Prime Minister, by the then clerk of the Privy Council. It was shameful, and the penchant of this government for trying to get around the rules or ignoring the rules is it's troubling, Mr. Speaker. And you know, we had the Bill Morneau, of course, with his the particular episode of his forgotten villa in France. The ethics commissioner of the day remarked on loopholes that needed to be repaired with this act, and this government has failed to bring forward changes to the law. Then that was quite some time ago, Mr. Speaker. That was 2017, I think. Later in the 43rd Parliament, we saw that same Bill Morneau in a conflict of interest scandal. You know, he would have it now that he left as finance minister because he couldn't stand the fiscal imprudence that he was being forced to undertake on behalf of the Prime Minister, just forgetting that, no, he actually, in fact, resigned in disgrace over his role in the WE scandal. So against this backdrop, Mr. Speaker, we have today's motion that I hope parliamentarians of all political stripes will support, both the concurrence motion for the report delivered by the Ethics Committee Chair and also this amendment that was moved today. We have to evolve and make sure that our laws evolve to meet the challenges of the present and the future as best we can. I mean, we've had a lot of talk about the Prime Minister's blind trust, and I remember a former Prime Minister and opposition leader, Joe Clark, who talked about at one time the Martin, when under the Prime Ministership of Paul Martin, he called it a Venetian blind trust, because the concern was that you could see through and see and know what assets are there. A blind trust doesn't work as a protection against conflicts of interest if the subject knows what is in the trust. And that takes us to the current Prime Minister, who has, as has been pointed out by other members today, the potential of carried interest, bonuses, perhaps options. These are the prospect of the Prime Minister's financial interests being tied up in companies that he knows are in, or can presume are in, his blind trust, because they're not liquid. It's not a matter of selling everything and having a manager manage funds that one would have no idea what is there. That's not the case at present with this Prime Minister. It certainly doesn't appear to be the case, and that's why the need for this study and to hear from these specific witnesses at the Ethics Committee. And, we didn't really get off to a good start with this Prime Minister. There's been a lot of talk about how he delayed disclosing his financial interests until absolutely required under the Act after having already become Prime Minister. And it actually goes back quite a bit further than even before that he became the leader of the Liberal Party. He was named he was named economic advisor to the Liberal Party, to the leader of the Liberal Party. Not the Prime Minister, but the leader of the Liberal Party. And a few people noticed right away, they thought, why are they trying to split hairs between the Prime Minister and the leader of the Liberal Party, who are, of course, or were, of course, the same person? Justin Trudeau was the leader of the Liberal Party, and he was the Prime Minister. So the legal hair they were trying to split was that at the time, the now Prime Minister, as the then advisor, would have been required to comply with the Conflict of Interest Act if he were an advisor to the Prime Minister. But as advisor to the leader of the Liberal Party, they would avoid this disclosure. So this goes right back many months before he became a leadership candidate, and it is material to this debate because one of the things that happened early on when he had this advisory role was they made a government decision to increase the mortgage insurance limit, ceiling limit, on insured mortgages. This created a business opportunity, of course, for mortgage insurers. There are, one is a Crown Corporation, there are two private ones. One of them is called Sagen, Mr. Speaker, and guess who owns and controls Sagen? None other than Brookfield. So we saw this happen. We saw a share price bump immediately after this announcement with Sagen, and so we Canadians are left to wonder, this is, what are the disclosures here? What are the relationships? And would something like this have been something that he would be required to? Was he a part of the decision? Would he have had to recuse if he was actually listed as the Prime Minister advisor rather than the Liberal Party or Liberal leader's advisor? It is not to say that the Prime Minister has acted in his own interest at the expense of the country's interest, Mr. Speaker. The point is the appearance. And Canadians want to know and ensure that the appearance of a conflict doesn't exist. So this is very important to Canadians. The member for Winnipeg North in the comments to the previous speaker talked about all of the other business that could be conducted today and accused the opposition he actually said a filibuster. His own party was filibustering C4 at committee last week, but Mr. Speaker, this is a bill that they failed, the bill that we would have been debating. They had the entire last Parliament to pass. They failed to manage their legislative calendar then, so I think one could hardly say this was a burning priority of the government. We have to, at some point, debate some of these committee motions, Mr. Speaker. It's important. It's important that each member be given the opportunity to weigh in on this with their vote. And so, yes, today is the day. We're going to have an ethics concurrence report debate and have this important amendment so that the ethics committee can call the witnesses that Canadians need to hear from at their parliamentary committee.
Questions and comments? Questions et commentaires? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I think it's really important that we recognize that there are many different opportunities to have the type of debate that the Bloc and the Conservatives working together are having or wanting to have today. At a significant cost. When we talk about the importance of bail reform for Canadians, we can talk about border security for Canadians, we can talk about the citizenship, which is court mandated by a superior court that we have to have it passed by November the 20th, let alone we have a budget on November the 20th. My question to the member is, why is the Conservative Party consistently putting their party interests ahead of the interests of Canadians, of the interests of the people we serve? Why?
The Honourable Member for Calgary Crowfoot.
I hope that he is not implying that ethical government is not in the interests of the Liberal Party, because I think that's what I just heard him say, that by having this debate about the Conflict of Interest Act, that we are acting in only in the interests of the Conservative Party. I would hope all parties want a regime where the appearance of conflict of interest doesn't happen. But he said that there are many opportunities for these kinds of debates, and he's right. And today is that opportunity. If they wanted to get C3 passed more quickly, they should have managed their calendar better, both in this Parliament and the last Parliament.
Questions et commentaires? L'honourable député de Montcalm.
Questions and comments. The Honourable Member for Montcalm. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the previous Parliament, we worked a lot on Chinese foreign interference. We held many debates on that. Today, an investigative journalist was here as a witness to show us the ties between Brookfield, while the current Prime Minister led it, and China. Does my colleague find that worrisome?
Yes, I do. I have not. I did not see and haven't read the testimony from committee, but what he is reporting to this House is troubling indeed, and material to this debate we're having.
Questions and comments? The Honourable Member for Brandon Souris.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A lot of noise coming from the other side of the chamber about whether this debate on ethics is in fact ethical or whether it is blockading the priorities of Canadians being discussed in this place. I think my colleague has answered that question very well. I wonder if he would like to comment on whether it was ethical or not for this Liberal government to prorogue Parliament and have in fact the least amount of sitting days in this year since the 1930s, if I understand the math correct, in order to put the priorities of their Liberal Party and the health of their political health first instead of the needs of Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Crowfoot.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Over the years, I've become quite used to this. This is typical. It happens over and over again. The Liberal government fails to pass laws. They table laws. They fail to move them. They delay. They dither. They waste time. They prorogue in this case, and then blame the opposition that they can't get their agenda through the House.
Questions and comments? Questions et commentaires? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, it's beyond me. You know, I've put on many challenges to members opposite. Never have they taken me up on the issue of their filibusters, their waste of time, the disgrace in the way in which they handle often the affairs of this chamber. Not one has actually taken me up on the debate. Let me put the challenge to the member. Will he come to Winnipeg, or I'll go to his right, any university where the two of us can actually have a debate in terms of how destructive the Conservative Party, and he can provide the counter-argument. I would welcome that debate. But of course, Mr. Speaker, he might say yes here, but I assure you, like every other Conservative, they won't follow up because they know they're wrong on this issue. Will he take the challenge?
The Honourable Member for Calgary Crowfoot, half a minute.
There are plenty of volunteers, it would seem, for that debate. Maybe it'll happen someday.
Order, order.